At 67 years old, I imagined I knew my family well until the day I received that anonymous text message on the beach that changed everything. Leave quietly now and go back to your car. Do not say anything to your grandkids. At that instant, I looked at my smiling grandchildren around me and felt a chill run down my spine. But before I continue, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and write in the comments where you are watching this video from. We love knowing how far our stories reach. My name is Evelyn. I am 67 years old, and my life changed completely on a summer afternoon. It was January 2024, a particularly unseasonably hot Sunday on the coast of Santa Monica, California. After 2 years of mourning the loss of my husband, Arthur, I had finally accepted the insistent invitation of my grandson, Liam, to spend a weekend with him and his wife, Ashley, at their apartment near the shore. "Grandma, you need to get out of that house. Grandpa has been gone for a long time," Liam had told me during his last visit, flashing that charming smile he had always used to convince me of anything since he was a child. Liam, my only grandson, was 29 and seemed to be thriving. A business school graduate, he held a job at a prestigious investment firm, drove a brand new Tesla, and was always talking about business opportunities. I felt proud of him, especially considering that my son, Robert, had died in a car accident when Liam was just 15. I had raised the boy alongside Arthur in the years that followed, and seeing him successful gave me the feeling that, despite all the losses, I had done something right. That Sunday afternoon, we were sitting under a blue beach umbrella. Liam and Ashley were chatting animatedly about some trip they were planning, while I watched the families on the beach. I felt a strange mix of contentment and melancholy. It was good to be there, but every happy moment also brought the pain of Arthur's absence. It was then that my cell phone vibrated. It was 3:22 p.m. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Don't trust them. I need to speak with you urgently. I am at the Blue Horizon Snack Shack, 100 yards to your right. Come alone. Your life and your fortune depend on this." My heart raced. Who would send a message like that? For a moment, I thought about showing it to Liam, but something made me hesitate. The message specifically mentioned, "Don't trust them." Could it be a coincidence? I looked at my grandson and his wife, who continued their conversation as if nothing had happened. The phone vibrated again. "Mrs. Evelyn, it is about your will and the house in Lake Tahoe. Please, come immediately. Do not mention this message." That froze my blood. No one outside the family knew about the house in Lake Tahoe. It was a valuable property that Arthur and I had bought as an investment years ago, mentioned only in our will. How did this stranger know? "I have a bit of a headache," I lied, standing up slowly. "I think I'm going to walk a bit along the shore to get some air." Ping. "Do you want me to go with you, Grandma?" Liam asked immediately, standing up. "It's not necessary, dear. It was just too much sun. I just want to stretch my legs and buy a water. I'll be back in a few minutes." I walked in the indicated direction, my steps hesitant on the hot sand. Every step took me away from familial safety and closer to the unknown. Was I being reckless? At 67, I always considered myself a cautious and sensible woman, but something in that message had triggered an internal alarm I couldn't ignore. The Blue Horizon Snack Shack was a simple wooden establishment painted white with some plastic tables set up in the sand. A middle-aged man with graying hair and dark sunglasses was sitting alone at a corner table, watching my approach intently. When our eyes met, he gave a slight nod. With my heart pounding, I sat across from him. "Mrs. Evelyn," he said in a low voice. "My name is Ethan. I am an accountant and I work at the firm that manages your grandson Liam's investments. How do you know about my house in the mountains?" I asked directly, still suspicious. "Because your grandson has been asking a lot of questions about it in the last few weeks, and about all your assets, actually. Does he have access to the will documents you signed 2 months ago?" That question hit me like a punch. Yes, I had signed an update to my will recently at Liam's request. He had insisted that I needed to modernize my documents after Arthur's death. "How do you know that?" I murmured, feeling a shiver. Ethan looked around before continuing. "Mrs. Evelyn, what I am going to tell you is serious. I accidentally discovered that your grandson is involved in a financial fraud scheme. He is drowning in debt with dangerous people and plans to use your assets to pay what he owes." "That is absurd," I responded automatically, but without much conviction. "Liam wouldn't do that to me. The will you signed isn't what you think. He swapped the pages after you reviewed them. In it, you transfer everything to him immediately, declaring yourself mentally incompetent to manage your assets. My head began to spin. The pieces of the puzzle were fitting together in a terrible way. The insistent invitations to leave my house, the excessive worry about my health, the constant questions about my investments and properties. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because I discovered this isn't the first time he's done this. There was another victim before you, a great aunt of his on his father's side." "And why?" Ethan hesitated. "Because I found something even more disturbing on his computer." He opened a folder and showed me a printout of an email. It was a conversation between Liam and someone identified only as Dr. M. The content was explicit about gradually increasing the dose to ensure it looks natural, and domestic accidents are always the best option for the elderly. My world collapsed in that moment. It wasn't just my money that was at stake, it was my life. "What do I do now?" I asked, feeling panic grow inside me. "You cannot go back to that apartment. They have been putting something in your blood pressure medication for weeks. That's why you've felt so tired lately." How did he know I had been exhausted? I had spent months feeling strangely lethargic, attributing it to age and depression over Arthur's loss. "But my things, my ID, can I get them? I can help you recover them later. Now we need to get out of here. They've already noticed your delay." I looked back and saw Liam walking quickly across the sand in our direction. His face was set in an expression I had never seen before. It wasn't concern, it was rage. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. I stood up and followed Ethan to his car parked nearby. When Liam shouted my name, I pretended not to hear. I was leaving behind not just my grandson, but the last illusion of family I had left. I didn't know it yet, but that message on the beach would be the beginning of the hardest battle of my life. A fight against my own blood to protect not just my legacy, but my own existence. As Ethan's car pulled away from the beach, I kept my eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. The image of Liam standing on the sand, his face contorted in frustration as he watched us leave, would remain etched in my memory forever. It was the face of a stranger, not the boy I had raised. "Where are we going?" I asked finally, when we were already on the Pacific Coast Highway. "To a safe place where we can talk calmly," Ethan replied, his eyes vigilant on the traffic. "I know a lawyer who specializes in cases of elder financial abuse. He will meet us at his office." I looked at the beach shrinking in the distance. The reality of the situation finally hit me with full force. I had just run away from my own grandson, the boy whose knees I had bandaged when he fell off his bike, for whom I had baked birthday cakes for years, with whom I had shared tears at my son's funeral. "How did you find out all this?" I asked, still trying to process the information. Ethan sighed deeply. "I've worked in the finance department of the firm for 12 years. I was always discreet, the type of person no one notices in meetings. 3 months ago, I found discrepancies in the accounts Liam managed, small sums disappearing, client investments temporarily redirected." He parked in front of a commercial building in downtown Los Angeles and continued. "I started investigating on my own. I discovered that Liam has a gambling debt of nearly $2 million with dangerous people. Illegal casinos, sports betting, that sort of thing. He was embezzling client money to cover his losses, but it wasn't enough. $2 million, I repeated, incredulous. How can someone owe so much? "Gambling addiction is a terrible disease, Mrs. Evelyn. Liam started with small online bets, then it escalated. By the time he realized it, he was already involved with dangerous loan sharks who offer easy credit, but collect with exorbitant interest and unconventional methods." In the lawyer's office, a man in his 50s named Mr. Harrison received us with a grave expression. His office was elegant but unpretentious, with shelves of law books and a window overlooking the city skyline. "Mrs. Evelyn, I am sorry we are meeting under these circumstances," he said, indicating a comfortable armchair where I sat. Ethan explained the situation to me over the phone. "I need to ask you some difficult questions if you are ready." I nodded, though I didn't feel ready for anything. My world had crumbled in a matter of hours. "Do you remember exactly what you signed in the new will?" I tried to recall that day 2 months ago. Liam had shown up at the house with a folder of documents, explaining that after Arthur's death, it was important to update my estate plan. He said it was a simple update, that the old documents didn't account for new tax laws. There were several pages, I signed where he indicated. Mr. Harrison exchanged a significant look with Ethan. And do you remember if the pages were numbered? If there was any official seal or watermark? I closed my eyes, trying to visualize the document. I'm not sure. I trusted him. He's my grandson. My voice broke on the last sentence. The pain of betrayal was almost physical. Have you felt unusual symptoms recently? Excessive drowsiness, mental confusion, memory lapses beyond what is normal for your age? That was when the pieces began to fit together in an even more terrifying way. Yes. I've been sleeping a lot. Sometimes I spend the whole day drowsy. Liam said it was depression from Arthur's death. He started preparing my tea every night. He said it had calming herbs. Mr. Harrison took quick notes. We need to do a toxicology screening immediately, Ethan said. You have the copies of those emails? Ethan opened his folder and took out more printed documents. One of them had a list of medications with names I didn't recognize. Benzodiazepines, murmured Mr. Harrison, examining the list. Combined with other sedatives, the intention was clear. To gradually diminish your cognitive capacity, create an appearance of senility or early onset dementia. I thought about the small, forgetful moments I had experienced in recent months, the times I couldn't find my keys or forgot the names of well-known acquaintances. It wasn't age. They were slowly poisoning me. Their plan was to declare me incompetent and take control of everything, I concluded, my voice trembling. Not just that, Ethan added somberly. The emails I found mentioned a permanent solution, in case you started to suspect. They mentioned an accident on the stairs at home. My entire body shook. The room began to spin. I leaned on the table to keep from falling. My own grandson, I whispered. My son's son. How could he? Mr. Harrison handed me a glass of water and waited for me to recover. Unfortunately, we see cases like this with increasing frequency. The question now is how to protect you and regain control of your assets. First, we need to ensure your physical safety. I can't go back home, can I? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Absolutely not. Liam will surely go there, and he will be furious. We have to assume he is dangerous right now. But where am I going to stay? I don't have other close relatives. Mr. Harrison exchanged another look with Ethan. I have a sister who manages a bed and breakfast in Ojai, Ethan offered. It's a discreet place. In the off-season, it's practically empty. You would be safe there until we resolve this situation. The idea of hiding like a fugitive at 67 was absurd, but less absurd than the alternative, returning to a house where my own grandson planned to kill me. And what about my documents? My clothes? My legitimate medications? I can help with that, said Ethan. I know the doorman of the building where Liam lives. I can make up an excuse to pick up your things when they aren't there. Mr. Harrison nodded, approving the plan. Meanwhile, we go to the district attorney's office. We need to file a report, request a restraining order, and start the process to annul any document you signed under duress or deceit. I looked out the window at the sky beginning to darken. Just a few hours ago, I was on the beach with what I believed was my family. Now I was in a lawyer's office, planning how to hide from my own grandson. And if he finds me? I asked, unable to contain the tremor in my voice. Mr. Harrison looked me in the eyes with a seriousness that frightened me. Mrs. Evelyn, we cannot underestimate the gravity of the situation. Your grandson owes $2 million to dangerous people. The only way for him to pay that debt is with your assets. If you disappear now, he will get desperate. Desperate people do terrible things. He's my grandson, I repeated, as if that could change something. Right now, he is someone who planned your murder, Ethan replied firmly. We have proof of that. I couldn't hold back the tears. I thought of Liam as a boy, running through the house asking me to tell stories before bed. The quiet teenager after his father's death, whom I tried to comfort even in my own grief. The young man I was so proud of when he got into university. Where was that boy? Had it all been just an illusion? When we left the office, it was already dark. Ethan drove carefully through the busy streets of Los Angeles, always checking the rearview mirror to ensure we weren't being followed. I felt like a character in one of those thriller movies Arthur loved to watch, except this was my real life. My cell phone rang several times during the trip. It was Liam. Each unanswered call made my heart shrink. On the 6th attempt, a text message arrived. Grandma, where are you? We are very worried. That man you left with is dangerous. Please call me urgently. I showed the message to Ethan, who shook his head. Classic. Reversing the situation, making you doubt who is really trying to help you. How do I know I can trust you? I asked suddenly. I just met you. Ethan smiled sadly. That is a fair question. You don't know me, but you know your grandson, and you saw the evidence. In the end, you'll have to trust someone. I just hope you choose the right people. The phone rang again. This time it was Ashley, Liam's wife. She is also involved? Up to her neck, confirmed Ethan. It was she who researched the medications. She has a background in pharmacy. Did you know? I didn't know. I realized there were so many things I didn't know about the people I considered family. The drive to Ojai was silent. I watched the highway lights passing by, trying to process everything I had discovered. Occasionally, I checked my phone, now silenced, but still receiving desperate messages from Liam. The latest one made me gasp. Grandma, I just stopped by your house to see if you had returned. The door was open and things are out of place. I think someone broke in. I am very worried about you. Please call me. He went to my house, I told Ethan, showing him the message. He is probably looking for documents, property deeds, anything he can use, Ethan replied, or planting evidence that you are confused, disoriented. It's part of the plan. We arrived at the inn around 10 p.m. It was a simple but cozy place, surrounded by oak trees and with the sound of crickets in the background. Ethan's sister, a friendly woman named Sarah, received me with a warm hug, as if she had known me for years. I prepared the back cottage for you, she said, guiding me down a path lit by small garden lights. It's the most private. No one will know you are here. The cottage was small but comfortable, with a queen-sized bed, a clean bathroom, and a small porch overlooking a garden. In my 67 years of life, I never imagined I would be hiding in a country inn, running from my own family. Tomorrow morning I will go to the police station with Mr. Harrison, explained Ethan, and then I will try to recover your things at Liam's apartment. You stay here with Sarah. Do not answer the phone. Do not use credit cards. Do not talk to anyone other than us. When I was finally alone, I sat on the bed and allowed the shock and pain to finally overwhelm me completely. I cried like I hadn't cried since Arthur's death. Perhaps more, because this time I wasn't crying just for a loss, but for a betrayal that destroyed all my happy memories. What would Arthur say if he knew? What would my son Robert think if he saw what his son had become? Lying in that strange bed, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, I made a promise to myself. I would not be just an elderly, defenseless victim. I would fight with all my strength, not just for my assets, but for my dignity and my life. My grandson had chosen to start this war, but I would be the one to finish it. I woke up startled by knocking on the door. For a moment I was disoriented, not recognizing the room where I was. Then, the memories of the previous day came back like an avalanche. The message on the beach, Ethan's revelation, the desperate flight from my own grandson. Mrs. Evelyn, it's me, Sarah. I brought breakfast. I relaxed a little. I looked at my wristwatch. 7:30 a.m. I had slept more than I imagined possible, considering the circumstances. I opened the door, and Sarah entered carrying a tray with coffee, toast, cheese, and fruit. Her kind smile seemed out of place in the nightmare my life had become. "How are you feeling?" she asked, placing the tray on the small table near the window. Like someone who found out they lived a lie, I answered sincerely, sitting down to drink coffee. Sarah nodded understandingly. Ethan told me the basics. I am so sorry for what you are going through. I know words don't help much right now. While we ate, Sarah explained that Ethan had left early to meet Mr. Harrison at the police station. He asked that you not turn on your cell phone or leave the cottage. Liam is probably looking for you everywhere. A chill ran down my spine thinking of Liam searching for me, not with genuine concern, but with rage and desperation at seeing his plans crumble. Can I at least turn on the TV? I need something to distract myself. Of course, Sarah replied, turning on the small television in the corner of the room. I'll be at the reception desk if you need anything. Just don't open the door for anyone other than me or Ethan. After she left, I kept changing channels without really paying attention to anything. My mind was full of questions and doubts. What if it was all a big misunderstanding? What if Ethan was wrong, or worse, had his own dark intentions? I decided I needed to see the evidence for myself. I turned on my cell phone, ignoring Ethan's warning. Immediately, a flood of notifications appeared. 15 missed calls from Liam, 8 from Ashley, 3 voicemails. With a racing heart, I opened the first message. Grandma, for the love of God, where are you? That man you left with is a former employee who was fired for theft. He is tricking you. The police are already looking for both of you. Call me. I am desperate. Liam's voice sounded genuinely worried. For a moment, doubt grew in me. Had a terrible mistake been made? The second message was even more disturbing. Grandma, I just spoke to your doctor. You cannot be without your medication. It is dangerous. You are confused. You aren't thinking clearly. That man is manipulating you. Please, come home. The manipulation was evident. Liam was playing with my fears, trying to make me doubt my own sanity, exactly as Ethan had predicted. The third message was different. Liam's voice was lower, almost a whisper. Grandma, I know you are with him. I know what he told you about me. It's lies. But if you don't come back tomorrow, I'm going to have to take measures. The lake house, the investments, all of that is legally mine now. You signed. Don't force me to declare you incompetent. It would be a scandal for the family. My blood froze. It was no longer a worried plea. It was a veiled threat, the confirmation of everything Ethan had told me. I turned off the phone with trembling hands, feeling nauseated. There were no more doubts. My own grandson, the last family tie I had left, was threatening me. The cottage landline rang, startling me. I answered hesitantly. Mrs. Evelyn, it's Sarah. Ethan just called. He and Mr. Harrison are on their way. They have important news. An hour later, Ethan and Mr. Harrison arrived at the cottage. Both looked tense but determined. The lawyer carried a briefcase full of documents. We managed to file the police report, began Mr. Harrison, sitting at the small table. And we obtained an emergency restraining order against Liam and Ashley. Legally, they cannot come near you. As if a piece of paper could protect me, I commented bitterly. It's a start, Ethan replied, but we have graver news. I stopped by Liam's apartment when I knew he wouldn't be there. The doorman is my friend, as I mentioned. I managed to recover some of your things, but I also found this. He placed a small medicine box on the table. This is supposedly your high blood pressure medication. I had it analyzed in a rush at a private lab where I have contacts. It isn't the medication it's supposed to be. It contains a combination of substances, including benzodiazepines, in increasing doses. Mr. Harrison nodded gravely. This will strengthen our criminal case against him, attempted murder with intent, at the very least. And there is more, continued Ethan, opening an envelope. I found the real will you signed before Liam swapped the pages. Compare it with this other one we obtained at the county clerk's office where it was filed. I examined the two documents side by side. They looked identical at first glance. Both had my signature at the bottom of each page, but the content was completely different. In the original document, I left 70% of my assets to Liam, with the condition that he take care of the Lake Tahoe house, which had sentimental value for having been bought with Arthur. The other 30% would go to charities. In the altered document, I declared to be in full consciousness, but worried about my future capacity to manage my assets due to recurrent episodes of mental confusion and forgetfulness. The text immediately transferred the administration of my entire estate to Liam, with a clause making him my conservator in case of mental incapacity, which will certainly worsen with time. This is monstrous, I murmured, feeling a wave of nausea. It is document fraud, corrected Mr. Harrison. And we can prove it. The swapped pages have subtle differences in the paper and the font used. A forensic handwriting expert will be able to confirm that some signatures were copied or forged. We got financial information too, added Ethan, showing more papers. Liam owes exactly $1,887,000 to a loan shark known as the Shark. The deadline for payment is in 2 weeks, coincidentally, the same period he planned your domestic accident. How did you find out all this so fast? I asked, impressed despite the horror. I have been monitoring Liam's activities for weeks, Ethan admitted, initially because of the irregularities at the firm. When I realized you were in danger, I intensified the investigation. I have some contacts who, well, let's say they know how to get information. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat, as if he preferred not to know the details. The important thing is that we have enough evidence to start civil and criminal proceedings, but Liam won't stay quiet. He has already started to act. What do you mean? He also filed a police report alleging that you are missing and possibly kidnapped by an unstable former employee. He also initiated an emergency conservatorship process, alleging that you suffer from incipient dementia and are putting your own safety at risk. That is absurd, I exclaimed, feeling a mix of rage and despair. How can he invent these lies about me? Unfortunately, it is a common tactic in cases like this, explained Mr. Harrison. Whoever attacks first usually establishes the dominant narrative. Liam is trying to build an image of you as a confused elderly woman manipulated by a stranger while he presents himself as the worried grandson. We need to act quickly, Ethan added. The good news is we have concrete proof. The adulterated medication, the altered documents, the emails about the accident. The bad news is that the legal process can be slow. How much time do I have until he gets the conservatorship? I asked, feeling a chill just thinking about losing control over my own life. We got a temporary injunction that suspends any decision until you undergo an independent medical evaluation, replied Mr. Harrison. But he will pressure for that evaluation to happen as soon as possible and will try to influence the result. By presenting your recent medical history, which probably shows symptoms of confusion and forgetfulness symptoms he himself caused with the adulterated drugs. Ethan seemed furious. It is a diabolical plan, almost perfect. If we hadn't intervened in time, a heavy silence fell over the cottage. We all knew what would have happened. In a few weeks, I would be declared incompetent, lose control over my assets, and eventually suffer a convenient accident. What do we do now? I asked finally. First, we need to ensure you undergo a full medical evaluation with doctors we trust, replied Mr. Harrison, including toxicology screens that show the substances being administered without your knowledge. This will dismantle the argument that you suffer from dementia. Second, Ethan continued, we need to ensure your properties are protected. Mr. Harrison has already filed requests to freeze any transfer or sale of your assets until the case is resolved. And third, concluded Mr. Harrison, we need to prepare you for a direct confrontation. At some point, perhaps in court, you will have to face your grandson and his version of the facts. The idea of facing Liam in court made me shudder not out of fear of him, but for the pain of seeing what he had become, of admitting publicly that my own grandson, my son's son, had planned my death for money. There is something else you need to know, I confessed, deciding it was time for total honesty. I didn't tell everything about my assets. There is an offshore account Arthur opened years ago. About $1 million in a Swiss bank. Liam doesn't know about it. Ethan and Mr. Harrison exchanged surprised looks. Why didn't you mention this before? Asked the lawyer. Because I'm not sure if I declared it correctly on my taxes all these years, I admitted, ashamed. Arthur took care of that. After he died, I continued only declaring the domestic income. Mr. Harrison sighed deeply. This complicates things. If Liam discovers this account during the process, he can use it against you, alleging concealment of assets, which would strengthen the argument that you are not managing your finances properly. On the other hand, reflected Ethan, it is money that is safe, out of his reach. We can use this strategically. Before we could continue the conversation, the cottage phone rang again. Sarah answered and came quickly toward us, her face pale. Ethan, a car pulled into the inn's driveway. It's a young man with a woman. They are asking for an older lady who might have arrived yesterday. My heart raced. Liam had found us. How did they find us? I whispered, terrified. Ethan thought quickly. Your cell phone. You turned it on. Only for a few minutes, I confessed, to listen to his messages. Time enough to track the signal, he murmured. We have to get out of here now. Mr. Harrison was already packing the documents into his briefcase. Is there a back exit? Yes, it leads to a trail that goes to the creek, replied Sarah. My car is parked back there. You can use it. While Ethan and Mr. Harrison hurriedly gathered our things, I stood paralyzed looking out the cottage window facing the garden. The reality of the situation hit me with full force. I was literally running away from my own grandson, like in a thriller movie. Mrs. Evelyn, we need to go, Ethan insisted, touching my shoulder gently. They can't see you. I nodded, forcing my trembling legs to move. We grabbed the small bag with my clothes and documents and left through the back, following a narrow path between flowering bushes that under other circumstances would have seemed charming. Sarah's car was an older model, but well maintained. Ethan took the wheel while Mr. Harrison sat next to me in the back seat. "Where are we going?" I asked, as the car sped down a back road away from the main entrance of the inn. "To Los Angeles," Ethan decided, eyes shifting between the road and the rearview mirror. "I have a friend who owns a small hotel in downtown. It isn't luxurious, but it's discreet. We can stay there using fake names while we prepare the next steps." Mr. Harrison nodded, approving the plan. "In the city, we will have easier access to the legal resources we need, and we'll get lost in the crowd." The trip to Los Angeles was tense. Every time a car got too close, I shrank in the seat, imagining Liam chasing us. Ethan drove carefully but fast, taking alternative routes to ensure we weren't being followed. "Do you think he knows where we're going?" I asked at one point. "It's unlikely," replied Ethan. "Even if they tracked your cell to the inn, they wouldn't know our future plans." "Unless," Mr. Harrison started, then stopped, as if thinking better of it. "Unless what?" I insisted. "Unless they put some kind of tracker on our things, but that would be paranoia." "I think we passed the point where we can rule out any scenario for seeming too paranoid," I completed. "I agree," said Ethan. "When we get to LA, we are going to check our clothes and belongings, just in case." As we approached the city, the traffic intensified. The constant flow of cars, buses, and trucks was both comforting and oppressive. On one hand, it was easier to disappear in the crowd. On the other, the smog and noise contrasted drastically with the tranquility of the inn in Ojai. Ethan's friend's hotel was on a narrow street in the historic core. It was an older building with a brick facade. The lobby was small but clean. "Frank, these are my aunt and uncle, Charles and Evelyn." Ethan introduced us to the clerk, a middle-aged man with a gray mustache. "They are having plumbing issues at their apartment and need to stay a few days." Frank nodded, understanding the subtext. "Sure. We have a double room available on the third floor. Very quiet, windows facing the back." After settling into the room, simple but comfortable, Ethan methodically checked all our clothes and belongings for potential trackers. He found nothing, which brought some relief. Mr. Harrison had stepped out to make some private calls. When he returned, he seemed more optimistic. "I managed to schedule an appointment with Dr. Helen Foster for tomorrow morning. She is a neurologist and forensic expert, specialized in mental capacity evaluations. She is extremely respected and absolutely ethical. If she attests to your full capacity, it will be a devastating blow against Liam's allegations." "And what about the house in Lake Tahoe?" I asked. "And my other assets?" "The judge granted the temporary freeze we requested," replied Mr. Harrison. "Liam cannot sell, transfer, or alter anything until the case is resolved. But that won't stop him from trying other means." "Like what?" "He is already spreading a story about your alleged mental decline among friends and acquaintances, creating a network of witnesses who will say they noticed changes in your behavior in recent months." "This is so calculated," I commented, feeling a shiver. "How could he plan all this?" Ethan sat in the only armchair in the room, looking suddenly tired. Gambling addiction can completely transform a person. The combination of huge debts and fear of violent creditors creates a desperation that justifies anything in the addict's mind. His observation made me think of Liam in a different way, not as the calculating monster who had planned my death, but as someone sick, consumed by an addiction that had destroyed his moral compass. It didn't diminish the gravity of his actions, but perhaps it explained how my sweet grandson had transformed into a person capable of such cruelty. What if... I hesitated, considering an idea that had surfaced. What if I just paid his debts with the Swiss account? He could settle what he owes, and maybe... "No," answered Ethan and Mr. Harrison in unison, with a firmness that surprised me. "It would be the worst possible decision," explained Mr. Harrison patiently. "First, because it would legitimize his behavior. Second, because it wouldn't solve the fundamental problem, the addiction. In a few months, he would be in debt again, and you would have fewer resources to protect yourself. And third," added Ethan, "those creditors are predators. If they find out you paid a debt of that size, they won't leave you alone. You will become a target." I nodded, acknowledging the wisdom of the advice, but my grandmother's heart still ached. Despite everything, it was still hard to accept that Liam had crossed a point of no return. "Rest a little," suggested Mr. Harrison, checking his watch. "Tomorrow will be a crucial day with the medical evaluation. You need to be strong and lucid." After they left, I stood alone in the strange room, looking out the window at an internal courtyard surrounded by other old buildings so different from my comfortable home in Beverly Hills, built over decades with Arthur. The feeling of exile was overwhelming. I closed my eyes, trying to remember what Liam was like as a child his first day of school when he clung to my leg, terrified of the unknown. The quiet teenager after his father's death, whom I tried to comfort even in my own grief. The proud young man wearing his cap and gown on graduation day. Where was that boy now? Did he still exist buried under layers of addiction and despair? Or had he disappeared completely, replaced by someone capable of coldly planning the death of his own grandmother? With those painful questions in mind, I fell into a fitful sleep, filled with nightmares where Liam chased me down endless stairs, always about to catch me. The next morning dawned gray and drizzly, a sky that seemed to reflect my mood. I woke up early after a night of fragmented sleep. My head throbbed with a slight ache, perhaps the result of accumulated tension or the adulterated medications that were gradually leaving my system over the last few days. Ethan arrived at 8:30, bringing coffee and fresh bagels. His face showed fatigue, but there was a determination in his eyes that gave me strength. "How are you feeling?" he asked while setting up the small breakfast on the room's table. "Like someone who discovered their whole life was a sham," I replied, trying to smile but failing. "Not everything was fake," Ethan observed gently. "The love you gave Liam for years was real. The happy memories you shared were true. What happened later doesn't erase that." His words, though well-intentioned, touched an open wound. How could I trust any memory now? How many of the laughs, moments of affection, confidences shared with my grandson had been genuine, and how many had been calculated to manipulate me? "We need to leave in 20 minutes for the appointment with Dr. Foster," informed Ethan, changing the subject upon noticing my discomfort. "Mr. Harrison will meet us directly at the clinic." He got copies of the medical records Liam attached to the conservatorship application. "They are from 3 months ago when you were at the hospital with dizziness, remember?" I remembered vaguely. I had had an episode of vertigo after lunch at Liam's house. At the time, I attributed it to the heat and tiredness. Now I realized they were probably already starting to drug me. "In those exams, there were already signs of some unusual substances in your system," continued Ethan. "Liam used the results to claim you were already showing symptoms of cognitive decline months ago. But Dr. Foster will know how to interpret correctly what was happening." Dr. Foster's clinic was in an elegant neighborhood of Los Angeles, in a modern building with a mirrored facade. Entering the sleek reception area, with leather armchairs and a decorative fountain, I felt out of place in my simple, improvised clothes. Mr. Harrison was already waiting for us, speaking in a low voice with a tall, elegant woman of about 50, short gray hair and rimless glasses. Her immaculate white coat contrasted with a colorful artisan necklace that gave her an approachable air despite her formal posture. "Mrs. Evelyn, this is Dr. Helen Foster," Mr. Harrison introduced us. The doctor greeted me with a firm handshake and a gentle smile. "Let's go to my office. We need to do a full evaluation, and I have many questions." The next 3 hours were grueling. First, Dr. Foster collected blood and urine samples for toxicology screening. Then she conducted a battery of cognitive tests, from simple questions like date and place to complex exercises of logical reasoning, memory, and decision-making. Throughout the process, she asked me detailed questions about my medical history, my daily routine, and specifically about the moments I had felt mental confusion or forgetfulness. "The symptoms always worsened after meals at Liam's house?" she asked at one point, noting my answers on a tablet. "Yes, now that I think about it. Especially after the evening tea he insisted on making. He said it had calming herbs that would help me sleep better." "And when was the first time you noticed these episodes of confusion?" I tried to remember precisely. "I think it started about 3 months ago, after I signed what Liam called the update to the will." Dr. Foster exchanged a significant look with Mr. Harrison. "This coincides with the first tests showing traces of benzodiazepines in your system." At the end of the evaluation, Dr. Foster took off her glasses and looked directly at me. "Mrs. Evelyn, based on all the tests I performed today, I can state categorically that you do not show any sign of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any other neurodegenerative condition. Your cognitive capacity is absolutely compatible with your age, with performance above average in several tests." I felt an immense relief at her words. It was one thing for Ethan and Mr. Harrison to believe me, it was another completely to have official medical confirmation. And what about the episodes of confusion I had? The preliminary results of the toxicology analysis confirm the residual presence of substances like lorazepam and other drugs that, combined, cause exactly the symptoms you describe: drowsiness, confusion, memory lapses. It isn't your mind that is failing, Mrs. Evelyn. You were being systematically poisoned. The word poisoned hung in the air like a sentence. It was one thing to know intellectually what Liam was doing, another completely to hear a respected doctor confirm the horror in such clear terms. "I will issue a full report by the end of the day," continued Dr. Foster. "Mr. Harrison can use this both to strike down the conservatorship request and to substantiate the criminal case against your grandson." Back in the car after the appointment, I allowed myself to cry for the first time since we had fled the inn. They weren't tears of fear or self-pity, but of deep sadness for what Liam had become and for what he had done to our relationship. "What happens now?" I asked when I finally calmed down. "Now we counterattack," replied Mr. Harrison firmly. "With Dr. Foster's report, we don't just defeat the conservatorship application. We flip the script. We are going to file criminal charges for attempted murder, document fraud, administration of harmful substances without consent, and fraud. How long until this is resolved?" Mr. Harrison hesitated. "Criminal trials can take months, sometimes years, but the civil part related to protecting your assets and annulling the fraudulent documents can be resolved more quickly, especially with the evidence we have." The prospect of a long judicial process frightened me. At 67, I didn't have so many years ahead to waste in courtrooms. "And what about Liam?" I asked. "Will he be arrested?" "With the evidence we have, it is highly probable," replied Mr. Harrison. "Attempted murder with premeditation is a serious crime. Added to the other accusations, he could face a considerable sentence." The idea of my grandson in prison caused me conflicting feelings. On one hand, he had coldly planned my death. On the other, he was my son's son, the last piece of family I had left. Is there any alternative?" I asked hesitantly. "Any way to resolve this without completely destroying what's left of our family?" Ethan and Mr. Harrison exchanged worried looks. "Mrs. Evelyn," began Ethan gently, "I understand your desire to preserve family ties, but I need to be very clear. Liam crossed all possible lines. It wasn't just financial fraud or emotional manipulation. He was literally planning your death." "I agree with Ethan," added Mr. Harrison. "Our main concern has to be your safety. Liam demonstrated he is willing to do anything to get your assets. Even if you decide not to proceed with criminal charges, we still need to ensure he has no more access to you or your money." I nodded slowly, acknowledging the wisdom in their words, but my grandmother's heart remained divided. It was hard to reconcile the boy I had raised with the man who had planned my murder. When we arrived at the hotel, Frank, the clerk, came hurriedly toward us, looking nervous. "Ethan, I need to speak to you in private." The two moved away, talking in low voices. From Ethan's tense expression, I realized something was wrong. When he returned, his face was serious. "Mrs. Evelyn, we have a problem. Liam was here an hour ago asking for us." My blood froze. "How did he find us again?" "I'm not sure." Frank didn't confirm anything. He said he didn't know any Evelyn. "But Liam showed a photo of you and insisted he had information that you were staying here." "We have to leave immediately," decided Mr. Harrison. "If he found this place, he will come back with the police, or worse. Worse, the loan shark he owes money to," explained Ethan somberly. "If Liam is truly desperate, he may have resorted to more extreme methods to find you." We quickly gathered our few belongings. Frank guided us through a service exit at the back of the hotel, avoiding the main lobby. "Where do we go now?" I asked as we got into Ethan's car parked on a side street. "To my apartment," decided Ethan. "It's not big, but the building has security, and it's the last place Liam would think to look." As we crossed the congested city, I looked out the window at people on the sidewalks, going about their normal lives, how my existence had changed so drastically in a few days. From a quiet widow visiting her grandson at the beach to a fugitive, hiding from her own blood, sleeping in strange places, fearing for her life. Ethan's apartment was in a middle-class neighborhood, in a building of common appearance but with a gate and security cameras. It was small and organized, with minimalist decor that matched his practical personality. "It isn't much, but we are safe here," he said, showing me the guest room, a cubicle with only a single bed and a small closet. Mr. Harrison had left to personally deliver Dr. Foster's report to the judge responsible for the case. "I want to ensure there is no loss of documents," he explained before leaving. Sitting in Ethan's small living room, exhausted physically and emotionally, I asked something that had been bothering me. "Why are you doing all this for me? Risking your job, your safety, opening your home to a stranger." Ethan stopped what he was doing and sat on the sofa across from me. His eyes reflected a mix of determination and sadness. "Because 6 years ago, my own grandmother went through something similar," he replied in a low voice. "My uncle, her eldest son, did almost the same thing. Manipulated documents, convinced everyone she was senile, took control of everything. When we finally found out, it was too late. She died alone in a cheap nursing home where he had put her to save money while he lived in her mansion." His fists clenched at the painful memory. "I was too young. I didn't have the resources or knowledge to help her. When I saw what Liam was planning to do to you, I swore that this time it would be different. That this time, I would do something." His words moved me deeply. In the middle of the nightmare my life had become, I found a gentle soul, someone willing to risk everything to help a stranger out of moral principle. "Thank you," I whispered, holding his hand. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't sent me that message on the beach." "We know exactly what would have happened," he replied somberly, "and that is why we cannot lower our guard until Liam is legally prevented from approaching you." Ethan's phone rang. It was Mr. Harrison with news. The judge received the report and immediately suspended the conservatorship proceedings, he informed, sounding triumphant. Even better, he issued a judicial order forbidding Liam from approaching Mrs. Evelyn or any of her properties. "The police have already been notified." It was a major victory, but we all knew it didn't mean the end of the battle. Liam was still desperate, in debt, and dangerous, and now more cornered than ever. "And what about the criminal case?" I asked. "The district attorney scheduled your statement for tomorrow morning," replied Mr. Harrison. "With your testimony and all the evidence we gathered, they should issue an arrest warrant for Liam and Ashley by the end of the day." The prospect of seeing my grandson arrested still caused me deep discomfort, but now I understood it was necessary, not just for my safety, but to prevent him from hurting other people. That night, Ethan reinforced the apartment security, double-checking all the locks and installing a portable alarm device on the door. Mr. Harrison had gone, but promised to return the next morning with news. "Do you think we are safe here?" I asked, as Ethan prepared tea in the small kitchen. "I think so," he replied, though I could note hesitation in his voice. "Liam doesn't know this address, and the building has a 2-4-hour doorman." However, seeing my worried expression, he added, "But maybe it's prudent to think of an even safer place. I have a friend who owns a ranch on the outskirts of the city. We could go there tomorrow until Liam is captured." I nodded, grateful for his concern, but at the same time tired of running. At 67, after a life of honest work with Arthur, I had become a fugitive, hiding in unknown places, fearing for my safety. "What happened to my life?" I murmured, more to myself than to Ethan. "It was interrupted temporarily," he replied, sitting across from me and offering a mug of tea. "But it isn't over. You are going to rebuild it. Different perhaps, but still yours." His words contained a wisdom that comforted me. Yes, my life had been turned upside down, but it was still in my hands. If I could survive this crisis, I could start over with new foundations, new people, new purposes. In the morning, the buzzer rang early. It was Mr. Harrison, appearing agitated. "We have a lead on Liam," he announced as soon as he entered. A motel clerk in San Diego recognized his photo on the news. Apparently, he and Ashley checked in last night under fake names. "San Diego?" asked Ethan, surprised. "Why would they go there?" "I'm not sure, but the police are on their way. With luck, they will be detained in the next few hours." The news brought a little relief, but something still bothered me. San Diego. "It doesn't make sense," I observed. "If they were really fleeing, they would go further away. Maybe even try to leave the country towards Mexico." Mr. Harrison frowned, considering my observation. "You're right. It seems a strange choice for someone on the run. Unless," Ethan began, then stopped abruptly, as if a disturbing idea had occurred. "Unless what?" I insisted. Unless it's a deliberate distraction, he completed, exchanging a worried look with Mr. Harrison. In that moment, Ethan's cell phone rang. He answered, listened for a few seconds, and his face paled. "When?" he asked tensely. "I understand. We are leaving immediately." Hanging up, he turned to us with urgency. "Someone broke into your house in Beverly Hills, Mrs. Evelyn. The alarm system triggered 15 minutes ago. The police are on the way, but—" "Liam," I concluded, feeling a chill down my back. "He was never in San Diego. He sent someone to create a false trail while he went after what he really wanted." "We need to go there," decided Ethan. "If he is looking for documents or valuables, we need to know exactly what he took." "It's dangerous," warned Mr. Harrison. "If Liam is still in the house, the police should have arrived by now," argued Ethan. "And we need to assess the damage, see what he was looking for." Reluctantly, Mr. Harrison agreed, and in 20 minutes we were in the car heading to my house, a place I hadn't seen since that fateful trip to the beach, which seemed to have happened an eternity ago, though it had been only a few days. Approaching the familiar street, I saw 2 police cruisers parked in front of my house. The small garden I tended with such care seemed intact, but the front door was visibly damaged. A police officer approached us as we got out of the car. "The house was broken into," he explained. "The alarm scared the intruder off before our arrival, but he caused quite a bit of damage inside. It seems he was looking for something specific." Entering the house, I was shocked by what I saw. Drawers overturned, closets open, documents scattered on the floor. My sanctuary, the home I had shared with Arthur for decades, profaned by the greed and desperation of my own grandson. "He went straight to the office," observed Ethan, walking down the hall. He knew exactly what he was looking for. In the small home office, the chaos was even greater. The antique desk Arthur loved so much had been damaged, its drawers ripped out and emptied. The wall, safe hidden behind a painting, was open, its contents gone. "What was in the safe?" asked Mr. Harrison. "Some family jewelry, important documents, and—" I hesitated, remembering something I had almost forgotten: the access codes to the Swiss account. Ethan and Mr. Harrison exchanged alarmed looks. "If Liam got those codes," spoke Ethan slowly, "he can try to access the account remotely, transfer all the money." "We need to call the bank immediately," decided Mr. Harrison, already grabbing his phone. "Freeze the account before it's too late." While they dealt with that, I walked slowly through the house, absorbing the extent of the violation. Every room held memories. The bedroom where Arthur and I slept, holding hands on cold nights, the kitchen where he made his famous Sunday roast, the living room where Liam, still a boy, opened Christmas presents, with eyes shining with excitement. Now everything was tainted, not just by the physical invasion, but by the betrayal that had preceded this moment. I picked up a photograph fallen on the floor. Me, Arthur, and Liam at his high school graduation. 3 smiling faces, proud, united, an image of a family that no longer existed. Mr. Harrison appeared at my side, face somber. I managed to speak to the bank in Switzerland. They confirmed there was an attempt to access the account 20 minutes ago using your credentials. Did Liam succeed? No. The bank blocked the attempt because it came from an unrecognized IP address. They have strict protocols for accounts of that size. But now they implemented a total freeze. No one can access the account until you appear personally at the branch in Switzerland. I sighed, partially relieved. At least he didn't get the money. But now he is more desperate than ever, observed Ethan, joining us, and he knows his last hope of paying the debts has just vanished. A police officer approached, holding his radio. "Mrs. Noguera, we just received important information. A vehicle registered to Liam Noguera, was spotted on the highway heading toward Lake Tahoe about an hour ago." The mention of Lake Tahoe made my heart race. The vacation house. The property that held so much sentimental value for me and Arthur. "He is going to the mountain house," I concluded. "Maybe he thinks there is something of value there, something he can sell quickly," suggested Ethan. "Or he is just desperate and without options, looking for a place to hide temporarily." "The local sheriff's department in Tahoe has been notified," informed the officer. "They are monitoring the property and access roads." Mr. Harrison, after a brief phone conversation, turned to us. "I spoke to the detective in charge. He suggests you stay in a hotel under police protection until Liam is captured." The idea of another hideout, another strange bed, more days living in fear, caused me a sudden wave of indignation. "No," I responded firmly, surprising myself with the determination in my voice. "I am done hiding. I am going to Lake Tahoe." "What?" exclaimed Ethan, shocked. "But that is exactly where Liam is going." "Precisely," I answered, a new resolve growing inside me. "It is time to face my grandson directly on territory. I know. That means something to our family." "It is extremely dangerous," argued Mr. Harrison. "Liam is cornered, desperate. The police will capture him. We just need to wait. And if he destroys the house before that?" "That place holds the last intact memories I have with Arthur. I won't let Liam profane them like he did with this house." Ethan and Mr. Harrison tried to dissuade me, presenting rational arguments about safety and procedure, but for the first time since this all started, I felt completely sure of my path. "I am going to Tahoe," I repeated with finality. "With or without you. The police are already there. I will be safe, but I need to be present. I need to see this end with my own eyes." After more arguments, they finally agreed on the condition that I would be strictly under police supervision and would not attempt to confront Liam personally. I accepted the terms, though inside I knew that when the moment came, I would do what my heart determined. 3 hours later, our car was climbing the winding roads of the Sierra Nevada towards Lake Tahoe. The landscape was beautifully incongruous with the drama we were living. Green pine forests, snow-capped peaks, under a crystal blue sky, the air getting crisper as we gained altitude. "The police confirmed Liam's car is in town," informed Ethan after receiving a call, "but they haven't located exactly where he is yet." "He is at the house," I replied with a certainty I couldn't explain. "That is where we are going, and that is where it all ends." As we approached the destination, I felt a strange calm settle in. After days of fear and uncertainty, I was finally taking the reins of my own story. Whatever the result of the imminent confrontation with Liam, I would face it standing up no longer as a scared victim, but as the strong woman Arthur always saw in me. The road wound between ancient pines, leading us to the meeting that would forever change the meaning of the word family in my life. The road to the Lake Tahoe cabin brought back conflicting memories with every curve. I remembered the trips with Arthur, the sound of his laughter when I expressed nervousness on the steeper parts of the drive. I also remembered Liam as a child in the back seat, asking every 5 minutes if we were there yet. So many happy recollections, now stained by what was to come. "Mrs. Evelyn," spoke Ethan, interrupting my thoughts. "The police have established a perimeter around the house. They confirmed there is someone inside, probably Liam. Do you want us to stop at the command post they set up a mile from the property?" I nodded silently. With every minute that passed, the reality of the situation became clearer and more painful. My grandson was cornered, hunted like a wounded animal, and wounded animals are unpredictable. At the improvised police post, a van parked on the shoulder of the road, we were greeted by Lieutenant Reynolds, a middle-aged man with a serious expression and posture that evidenced his years of experience. "Mrs. Noguera," he greeted me formally, "we have the situation under control. Your house is surrounded. We identified 2 individuals inside. We believe they are Liam and Ashley Noguera. They seem to be searching for something, moving from room to room." "Are they armed?" asked Mr. Harrison. "We don't have visual confirmation of weapons, but we are proceeding with the assumption that they might be." The idea of Liam armed caused me a new wave of anguish. What had happened to him? How had the sweet boy I knew transformed into someone the police needed to protect themselves against? "What is the plan?" I asked, trying to keep composure. "We are trying to establish communication. We sent messages via loudspeaker, but so far we haven't gotten a response. If they continue not to answer, we will have to consider a tactical entry." Tactical entry meant invading the house by force. "Is that really necessary?" I asked, alarmed. "It is a last resort, ma'am. But if we assess there is a risk of self-harm or significant destruction of property, we may need to intervene." The idea of armed police invading the house Arthur and I had chosen as our haven of peace was unbearable to me, and the possibility of Liam reacting violently, being hurt, or worse. No, there had to be another solution. "Let me talk to him," I proposed suddenly. "Absolutely not," responded Ethan and Mr. Harrison almost in unison. "It is too risky," completed the lieutenant. "Your grandson is mentally unstable and desperate. We cannot allow you to expose yourself to that danger." "He won't hurt me," I argued, though an inner voice questioned that certainty. I've known Liam since he was born. I know how to talk to him. With all due respect, ma'am, the lieutenant replied patiently. The Liam you knew planned to poison you and fake your death. We cannot rely on any predictability of behavior right now. His words were true, but still, something inside me insisted I needed to try, not just for Liam, but for myself. For some closure that made sense in the midst of all this madness. Lieutenant, intervened Mr. Harrison, realizing my determination. Maybe we can reach a compromise. What if Mrs. Evelyn spoke to Liam by phone from a safe distance, without physical contact? The lieutenant considered the idea for a moment. That could work. We could use the megaphone to instruct him to answer the house landline. If he agrees to talk, it might help de-escalate the situation. After more discussions about safety and procedures, the plan was approved. I would talk to Liam on the house's landline while remaining in the police van, far enough away to be safe, but close enough that my voice could potentially calm him. Remember, instructed Ethan as I prepared, no matter what he says, stay firm. He might try to manipulate you again, play with your emotions. Don't fall into that trap. I nodded, grateful for the advice, though I knew it would be easier said than done. Liam knew my weak points, my emotional triggers. He had spent years studying them meticulously for his manipulation. The lieutenant used the megaphone to communicate with the house. Liam Noguera, we know you and Ashley are in there. The house is surrounded. There is no exit. Your grandmother wants to speak with you on the house phone. Pick up when it rings. There was a long moment of silence. Then, one of the living room curtains moved slightly. Someone was watching. The lieutenant dialed the house number. We heard the ringtone on the communication device. 1, 2, 3 times. On the 4th ring, someone answered, but said nothing. Liam? I called, my voice firmer than I expected. It's me, Grandma. Silence for a few seconds. Then, what do you want? Liam's voice sounded strange, tense, almost unrecognizable. I want to understand, Liam. I want to know how we got to this point. A bitter laugh came from the other side of the line. How we got to this point. You really don't know, do you? Always living in your bubble, your perfect world with Grandpa, without seeing what was happening around you. What are you talking about? I'm talking about how you two were always the perfect couple, the exemplary grandparents. Everyone adored Arthur and Evelyn, the kind ones, the generous ones. But no one saw what happened when the visitors left. His words confused me completely. Liam, I don't understand what you are saying. We always treated you with love. Love? He practically spat the word. Is that what you call it? Do you know how many times my father cried because of you? How many times he came back destroyed after visiting the exemplary parents? Robert? Liam was talking about my son, his father. A sharp pain shot through my chest. Your father had problems, Liam. We tried to help him in every way possible. Problems you created, shouted his voice, trembling with rage. Always demanding perfection, always comparing him to others' children. Nothing he did was good enough for the great Arthur Noguera, right? The accusations hit me like slaps. It was true that Arthur had been strict with Robert, expecting excellence in everything, but that was love, not cruelty. We wanted the best for our son. Your father was loved, Liam. If he had that impression, it was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Liam laughed again, a sound that made my skin crawl. That's what you always say, isn't it? You misunderstood, son. It's for your own good. Do you know what my father told me before he died in that accident? That he was driving drunk because he couldn't stand trying to prove his worth to you anymore. That revelation hit me like a physical impact. Robert had died coming back from a party. His car flipped on a curve. The report indicated high alcohol content in his blood. We had attributed it to irresponsibility, a terrible mistake. I never imagined there could be something deeper behind it. Liam, that can't be true. My voice failed. It's the only truth that matters to me, he replied, the bitterness evident. And after he died, you took me in. Of course, the exemplary grandparents wouldn't abandon the orphan grandson, but always looking at me as if you expected me to make the same mistakes as my father. Always pressuring me to be perfect, not to waste opportunities like he did. His words opened a wound I didn't even know existed. It was true that after Robert's death, Arthur and I had been particularly demanding with Liam. We wanted him to have all the opportunities his father, in our view, had wasted, but that had been interpreted in a completely different way by the boy suffering his father's loss. Liam, if that is how you felt, I am so sorry, truly. But does that justify trying to kill me? There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice was more controlled, almost cold. No, nothing justifies it. I got lost, Grandma. I got lost completely. A deep sigh. I started gambling to feel something, anything, to have control over something in my life, when I realized I owed millions to people who don't accept excuses. We could have talked, Liam. I would have helped you somehow. How? Giving me a lecture on financial responsibility? Comparing me to your friend's son who became a doctor? He laughed bitterly. Besides, it was already too late. The shark isn't exactly patient with debtors. Either I paid, or... So you decided I had to die, I concluded, the pain of that truth still fresh. It was Ashley's idea initially, he admitted after a moment. She said it would be cleaner, faster. An elderly lady, a domestic accident, no one would question much. The inheritance would come to me, I'd pay the debts, and we'd move on. The coldness with which he described the plan to murder me left me nauseated. How had we reached this point? How had I not noticed the depth of the dysfunction in our family? And now? What is the plan, Liam? The house is surrounded. There is no exit. Another long pause. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I came up here looking for something I could sell quickly. Jewelry, valuable documents, anything. But I didn't find anything useful. What would you do if you had found it? I asked, genuinely curious. I would try to negotiate with the shark, buy more time. But now, his voice faded. And in the background, I could hear what sounded like Ashley crying. Liam, surrender to the police. It is the only option now. Maybe with a good lawyer, considering the circumstances, your sentence can be reduced. Sentence. He laughed again. That disturbing sound. Grandma, you really don't understand, do you? The shark already knows I'm not going to pay. Even in prison, he would find me. And it would be much worse than anything the prison system could do. A shiver ran down my spine, realizing the gravity of the situation. Liam wasn't just running from the police, but from criminals who wouldn't play by the rules of law and order. We can protect you, I offered, though without much conviction. Witness protection, maybe. For that, I would have to turn in the shark, which would be basically signing my death warrant. He sighed deeply. There is no way out, Grandma. I ruined everything, completely. Something in the tone of his voice alarmed me. It was resignation, but with a trace of finality that terrified me. Liam, what are you thinking of doing? I'm tired, Grandma. Very tired of running, of lying, of pretending to be someone I'm not. Liam, listen to me. Don't do anything impulsive. We can resolve this together. Together? He asked, and for a moment, I heard the insecure boy he had been. After everything I did? After what I planned to do to you? For me, Liam, I replied firmly. Even after everything, you are still my son's son. I still carry the memories of the boy you were, of the love we shared. There was a prolonged silence. I looked at the lieutenant, who signaled for me to keep talking, to keep him engaged. Think about your father, Liam, I continued. If what you say is true, if Robert really felt inadequate, don't repeat his same mistake. Don't choose a path of no return. You don't understand, he murmured. Then help me understand. Come to the door without the weapon, and let's talk face to face, as a family, with all our flaws. I heard Liam's heavy breathing on the other side. Then, something unexpected. Would you really come here? After everything? Yes, I replied without hesitation, ignoring the alarmed looks from Ethan and the lieutenant. If you put the weapon aside, I will come to you. The lieutenant covered the microphone. Mrs. Noguera, that is extremely dangerous. We cannot allow it. I raised a hand to silence him. In that moment, it was a matter between grandmother and grandson. A family matter. No tricks, Liam. No more lies. Just us two, talking honestly for the first time in years. After what seemed like an eternity, Liam responded, Okay, I'm going to leave the gun on the living room table. I'll be waiting on the porch. Only Ashley will stay inside the house. I'm coming over, I promised, hanging up the phone. The chaos was instant. Ethan, Mr. Harrison, and the lieutenant began to protest simultaneously. "It's suicide!" exclaimed Ethan. "He could be lying about the gun," warned Mr. Harrison. "Absolutely out of the question," declared the lieutenant. "We will not put a civilian at risk." I faced the three of them with a determination I hadn't felt in years. "Gentlemen, I appreciate the concern, but this is my family, my responsibility. If there is a chance to resolve this without violence, I need to try." "Mrs. Evelyn," argued the lieutenant, "he planned to kill you. This isn't a common family disagreement." "I am aware of that, but I also know there is more to this story than simply evil. There is pain, there is generational trauma, there are things that need to be said before it is too late." After more arguments, we reached a compromise. I would go to the house, but I would wear a bulletproof vest disguised under my clothes. Snipers would be positioned strategically, ready to intervene at the slightest sign of danger. And I would wear a hidden microphone so they could hear the conversation. When the preparations were finished, Ethan held my hands. "Please, be careful. Don't let yourself be manipulated again." I nodded, moved by his genuine concern. "I will be cautious, I promise. But I need to give this one last chance. Not for Liam, but for myself." The walk to the house seemed endless. Every curve of the driveway revealed more of the familiar landscape. Tall pines, the blue sky of Tahoe, and finally, at the top of a gentle hill, the wood and stone house Arthur and I had built as our refuge. When the police van stopped at a safe distance, I took a deep breath and got out. The last 100 yards would be covered on foot, alone. I felt the weight of the vest under my coat, a constant reminder of the danger I faced. As I approached, I saw Liam sitting on the porch steps. He seemed smaller somehow, hunched over, without the confident air he always exhibited. His face was pale, eyes red like someone who had cried recently. I stopped a few yards away. "Liam." He lifted his head slowly. "Grandma, you really came." I said I would come. An uncomfortable silence settled between us. So many things to say, so many open wounds, and neither of us knew where to start. "The gun is on the table," he finally spoke, making a vague gesture toward the interior of the house. "Like I promised." I nodded, maintaining distance. "What happened to you, Liam? Really happened?" He passed his hands over his face, a gesture that reminded me so much of Robert that my heart shrank. "I started gambling online during college. It was just fun at first, small amounts. Then I won big once, and that feeling, it wasn't like anything I had ever felt. Control, power, validation. All the things I never felt growing up." He looked at his own hands as if they belonged to someone else. "When I started losing, I was already addicted. I needed to win the money back, so I bet more. An endless cycle. I met Ashley at an underground casino. She worked there. She offered special help with loans. She seemed like the solution to all my problems. Why didn't you ever ask for our help, Liam? Arthur and I would have done anything for you." He laughed bitterly. "Anything except accept me as I was. Remember when I failed calculus freshman year? Grandpa didn't speak to me for weeks. Said I was just like my father, wasting potential." The memory hit me like a slap. It was true. Arthur had been harshly critical, believing severity would motivate Liam to try harder. "We made mistakes," I admitted. "Many mistakes. But that doesn't justify what you plan to do to me." Liam lowered his head, tears finally falling. "I know. There is no justification. When Ashley suggested it, I should have refused immediately. But I was so desperate, so terrified. The shark had threatened to break my fingers as a first warning, and every day the debt grew more with interest. So you decided my death would be the solution. It wasn't a conscious decision. It's not initially. It was more like a slippery slope. First, we just wanted your signature on some documents. Then we realized you might question the transfers. Then came the idea of making you seem mentally incapable. And finally, the accident." He nodded, unable to repeat the word. "Would you really have gone through with it?" I asked, the question that had tormented me from the beginning. Liam stayed silent for a long moment. "I don't know," he replied finally. "I want to say no, that I would never be able to physically hurt you, but after crossing so many lines, honestly, I don't know what I am capable of anymore." His brutal honesty was painful, but also strangely liberating. For the first time in years, we were truly talking, without manipulations or hidden agendas. And now? I asked. What do you intend to do? What options do I have? Prison is inevitable, and the shark will eventually find me inside or outside. There is witness protection, I suggested. If you cooperate, denounce the shark and the others involved in the loan sharking scheme. Liam shook his head. You don't understand how these people operate. They have contacts everywhere, even in the prison system. There is no safe hiding place. So what is your alternative? Grandpa's revolver. The words came out harder than I intended. Liam raised his eyes, the pain evident in his gaze. It seemed like the only way out. At least it would be quick. On my own terms. I sat next to him on the steps, keeping some distance but close enough that he could feel my presence. Do you know what Arthur would say now? I asked softly. That I am a disappointment, Liam replied bitterly. No. He would say that courage isn't not having fear, but facing the consequences of your own actions, however bad they are. I saw something change in Liam's look. A small glimpse of the boy he had been, who admired and feared his grandfather in equal measure. I'm scared, Grandma, he confessed, his voice almost childlike. Of everything that comes next. I know. And I won't lie saying it will be easy. You made terrible choices, Liam. And now you need to face the consequences of them. Do you hate me? He asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. I looked at him, the grandson who had planned my death, but also the boy who had run to my arms when he learned his father had died. How to define what I felt? I don't hate you, Liam. I am deeply hurt, disappointed, and still processing the betrayal, but hate, no. Maybe it is the privilege of being old, knowing that feelings are always more complex than simple words like love or hate. He nodded slowly, absorbing my words. What happens now? Now you surrender to the police. You tell everything about the shark, about the loan sharking scheme. You assume responsibility for what you did to me. And then, one day at a time, you try to rebuild some meaning for your life. And what are you going to do? I looked at the house that held so many memories. I am going to keep going. Rebuild my life the best way possible. Who knows? Start a foundation to help elderly victims of financial abuse or support treatment programs for gambling addicts. Transform this pain into something that can help others. A silence established itself between us, not totally comfortable, but not hostile either. It was the silence of two people facing a difficult truth about their relationship and the future. Finally, Liam stood up. I'm ready, he said simply. I signaled to the lieutenant, who was waiting at a discreet distance. He advanced with two more officers. Weapons lowered but visible. Liam Noguera, the lieutenant spoke formally. You are under arrest for the charges of attempted murder, administration of harmful substances, document forgery, and fraud. While they handcuffed him, Liam looked at me one last time. There was no manipulation in his eyes now, just a tired resignation. And maybe, I thought, hopefully, the first glimpse of genuine repentance. I'm sorry, Grandma, he said simply. For everything. I didn't answer immediately. Some wounds were too deep to be healed with simple words. But I nodded, acknowledging his request, even without being able to offer yet the full forgiveness he sought. While they took him to the patrol car, Ashley was escorted out of the house by other officers. She didn't even look in my direction, keeping her head low, face hidden by her hair. Ethan approached, putting a gentle arm around my shoulders. Are you okay? No, I replied honestly, but I will be. I looked at the Lake Tahoe house one last time before turning away. It represented the past, with its joys and sorrows, truths and lies. Now it was time to look toward the future, however uncertain it seemed. In the months that followed, many things changed. Liam and Ashley were tried and convicted, him to 12 years in prison, her to 8, for being accomplices in the attempted murder and fraud. The evidence was overwhelming, and Liam's confession, though late, helped clear up the case. More surprising was the police operation triggered by the information Liam provided about the shark. The investigation revealed a loan sharking network that extended across 3 states, with branches in illegal betting houses and money laundering. The shark, real name Vincent Moretti, was arrested along with dozens of associates, dismantling one of the largest criminal organizations on the West Coast. As for me, I kept my promise. With part of the money from the Swiss account, I created the Arthur Nogueira Foundation, dedicated to protecting the elderly against financial abuse and raising awareness about gambling addiction. Ironically, the personal tragedy that almost cost me my life now served to save others. Ethan became not just a close friend, but an invaluable ally in the administration of the foundation. His financial expertise and commitment to ethics made him the perfect partner for this new journey. I visited Liam in prison 3 months after his conviction. It was a difficult conversation, charged with conflicting emotions. He seemed different, thinner, quieter, eyes without the manipulative shine I had learned to recognize. "I'm in therapy," he told me, discovering things about myself I never wanted to face. I didn't promise to visit him regularly, nor did I offer an easy forgiveness I didn't truly feel. Instead, I offered something more valuable: honesty. "I don't know if one day our relationship will be what it was, Liam. Some betrayals are too deep, but I haven't closed the door completely. Time will tell what will be possible to rebuild. Sometimes, when I wake up in my new condo in Los Angeles, smaller but cozier, I still feel a moment of panic remembering that message on the beach that changed everything. But then I breathe deep and remember that message, however painful it was, also saved me. At 67, I discovered that family isn't just blood and DNA. It is trust, respect, and daily choices to love and protect. The family I have now, the friends from the foundation, Ethan, even some of the seniors we help, was chosen and built consciously, not simply inherited. As for the house in Tahoe, I decided not to sell or abandon it. Instead, I transformed it into a retreat center for elderly victims of abuse, a place where they can recover and rebuild their lives. The happy memories I shared there with Arthur, and yes, even with Liam as a boy, weren't erased. Now they just coexist with the pain, as happens with all real family stories. On the porch of that house, where I had the final conversation with Liam before his arrest, I installed a bench with a simple plaque, "For new stories and second chances." It is there I sit on summer afternoons, watching seniors walk through the garden, finding strength in their shared vulnerability. And when the sun begins to set over the mountains, I think about how life can change completely in a single moment with an unexpected message from a stranger on a sunny beach. Now, if you liked this story, click on this next video appearing on the screen, because in it there is a story of betrayal and revenge like you have never seen before.